Hey guys, it's RealMelTan here. So today we got the case to show you. This is a Thermaltake V1 Snow Edition. Watch till the end of the video to know how Gordon and I think about this case.
This is where I come in. So I mentioned this is the Thermaltake Core V1 Snow Edition. Again, to emphasize the point, it's called the Snow Edition because it's white in color. You may wonder at first glance, it's an ITX case, it's cute. So what's so special about this case? What I can tell you is that we have built quite a number of sets in this case, and there are a lot of neat party tricks in this case, which is especially good for enthusiast builders who are looking for Mini-ITX builds. Let me start off with trying to take that apart. So this is a front grille, it's a mesh front grille itself, Thermaltake logos right below. On the side is nothing particularly amazing. You have the indicator lights, the power lights, this indicator. Your power button is here, two USB 3 ports, your headphones and your microphone, as well as your reset button. It's pretty normal. Let me start by getting the front of the case off. So let me just put my finger right below here. Right. So that gets the front of the case off, and we've come to the first nice part on this case. If you can imagine that your motherboard is going to be sitting around here, right behind here. This is a giant 200mm fan blowing directly at it. There's a lot of cold air coming in as intake. Well, I'm going to take this case a little bit further apart. Now, it's a cube. The neat thing is that actually all 4 panels are interchangeable. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me start off with the one side here. This is a mesh. You get these 2 screws off. So, off comes this one. You can see right over here, first and foremost, this is your 2 times PCIe expansion slot covers. When this build is completed, this will be where your GPU will sit. As you can see, there's quite a fair bit of room for a GPU, so you've got this little opening here. You can slot pretty much any 2-slot GPU inside here. The emphasis being on 2 slots. So there may be some of the more higher end, more ostentatious GPU models today that will not fit inside here, namely those that take up 2.5 slots. But if you're using a 2-slot model or either an NVIDIA or a AMD Radeon reference model, you should be fine. So the second panel that I'm going to take off will be this one. This is the acrylic top panel. There's 2 more screws right over here. So with that panel right off, you have a further look at the inside of the case itself. These are the cables. This section where my hand is where your power supply will sit. So the cables that coming out from the power supplies will all be right over here. And these 4 points over here will be where your ITX motherboard will be mounted onto. Here comes the little neat party trick that we have. Number 1, you remember just now that the acrylic cover was sitting on the top. Now you can do something here. This is the acrylic cover. It's supposed to go on the top, right? Instead of putting it on the top, you can put the acrylic cover on the side. And what you actually get is a set where you have, your acrylic is right over here. But if you put it on this side, you're not really going to get much of a view. Pretty much what you'll be seeing here will be your GPU itself. It's a matter of personal preference. Personally, for me, I wouldn't put the acrylic cover there because firstly, all you'll be looking at will be the GPU, and secondly, you will want the mesh side panel here for air to come in and get sucked in by the GPU for ventilation. Remember, this is the configuration that I'll normally go for. Let me get this other panel off. This panel right over here. So once you unscrew this panel, these 2 little holders down here are where your 3.5-inch or 2.5-inch drives are mounted. You have 2 of them right over here. So how did they come off? There's 2 screws here, so I'll take one out just to show you. We unscrew this, we get this one out. So we the little tab, this is your bracket to mount your 3.5-inch drive. So technically, let's say this is a 3.5-inch drive. There are screws and mount to mount this thing here. So you just imagine that it goes right over here. Slots in, put in that screw, and this is where your drive is. Sorry, it's actually the wrong way around. It's actually, silly me. It's actually supposed to be this way. For 3.5-inch, you're supposed to have the SATA data and the SATA power connection facing upwards, so your cable goes right over here. Get that out of the way. How to put it back? Once you secure your drive in, align with this screw hole here, and then you just do this. And you just do it like that. That part is really neat. Like I said just now, these are all the screws and all that, the manual. So that's nothing really particularly amazing. I'll just leave that here. Right, so you may be thinking, this is the furthest extent that you can take this case apart. Okay, one more panel. See, you've got two little screws here. When you take the two screws out, the bottom section with the feet comes right out. You have this little mesh filter here which is removable. Imagine that your power supply sits here and this goes right over. This will be where your PSU intake fan will be situated. So it comes in here and then it comes out through this way. Once you've gotten the case fully dismantled, this is what it looks like, a very open frame. In this era where you have a lot of casings with a very close door power supply shrouds, very common problem where you have the power supply with power supply module and cables plugged in already. And then you have to spend quite a fair bit of time, first of all, getting the power supply in and then trying to manage the cable like so. It's a breath of fresh air to see a case like this where it's just so open. The cables are so easy to manage. You can just reach your hands, even if you've got very big hands, you can just manage just like that, tie up your cables, do whatever it is you need to do, and once you're done, put your two screws and you're done. Continue with the rest of your build. Yeah, it's super easy. One little thing that you can do with this case, which really blows my mind, is this. This is the front of the case. In this orientation, which is normal orientation, so imagine the motherboard is like that, your graphic card is like that. So what you can actually do with this case, which is pretty neat, is that you can take this panel, you can turn it this way, yeah, and you can have a configuration pretty much like this. To better visualize, I will put the front panel back on. Yeah. This is the front of the case. So your power button and all that, instead of being like that on the left, your power buttons and all that are now on the top. So it's kind of like a very unorthodox reverse. Let me get the panels on. So you can have this configuration where your buttons and your I/O is all on the top instead of on the left. On this side of the case, you have the window where you can see your motherboard, your CPU fan and all that will all be here and visible. Your GPU will be orientated this way, so I'm pointing upwards this way. And the power supply will be to the side of the motherboard itself. If you want to do it this way, you can do it. Let me get it back to a normal configuration. Overall, what do I think of this case? To be very frank, it's a very old design. If you compare it to a lot of ITX designs today, yeah, it kind of looks a little bit dated. But if you are a very practical kind of user, you want a small compact build like this, but at the same time you know that you are going to put very high-end, very hot running components inside there. It could be something like an AMD Ryzen 9 3900X and Intel i9 9900K, and maybe one of high-end GPUs, like let's say Radeon 5700 XT and RTX 2070. Problem when you're trying to put all this into a lot of ITX mini cases on the market, most of the time you end up with very bad thermals. Set will run fine, but quite often you have temperatures under load that are a little bit too toasty for comfort. You won't really have that problem with this case. It's got a big fan in front to take air in from the front, goes on the back. Your GPU, by its default configuration, has this grill all to itself to take in fresh cold air. If you want to look down and see what's going on, you have your acrylic window here, and you have some more ventilation grill right over here. And as you saw just now in the review, with all the panels that can come out, this case is an absolute joy to work with. For the price range that it goes for now, I believe it's the 60-70 Singapore dollar range. You can't go wrong with this case. That's one thing I'm gonna say about it. That's my take on the Thermaltake Core V1 Snow Edition.
Well, let's give us a review about the Thermaltake Snow V1 Edition. What you guys think about this case, let me know in the comment sections below. Apologies for unposting for the past few weeks, been quite busy, Gordon's been quite busy, so we're going to be back on track soon. Check out our new projects, we're going to put up some more new build, new things coming up. This is just part 1. Part 2, we're going to showcase the components we're going to use and the build that we're going to have for a very special customer of ours. Right, Gordon? Yep. So in the meantime, you can still continue to check out our videos, our very well doing video, the AMD aftermarket cooler versus stock cooler comparison video. Only support us, or you can check out my other tech videos in my tech playlist. Click on the I icon to subscribe to my channel and click on the bell to know when I put up new videos. Looking for support. Let's make this channel awesome.